Let's talk about truthiness in Python. So we have a list of numbers, and we have an if statement that either prints out yes or no based on the condition numbers. Now, that's not that the length of numbers is equal to something, it's just numbers. We get yes when we evaluate this, despite the fact that numbers is not true. Numbers is a list, true is a Boolean, they're not the same thing. But if we convert numbers to a Boolean, we will get true. So Python is checking the truthiness of this numbers object, meaning it's asking the question, what happens when we convert it to a Boolean? And that's in fact what if statements do. The condition in an if statement, whatever it may be, it's usually a Boolean, but if it's not, Python will convert it to a Boolean implicitly to check the truthiness value of that object. And in fact, this happens as well inside any Boolean expression. So if I say not numbers, for example, this is going to implicitly convert numbers to a Boolean and then negate whatever we get back, which means we get false. So numbers, in this case, we were checking the falsiness of numbers. I don't think that's how you spell falsiness. I think it might be this way. And the reason I don't know how you spell falsiness actually is that truthiness and falsiness are not mentioned in the Python documentation anywhere. Python calls this truth value testing. Now, I never see this term used. Colloquially, we always say truthiness and falsiness instead, but in the documentation, it's called truth value testing for some reason. If numbers is an empty list, things get kind of interesting. So if we say if numbers the same way as before, this time we get no. The reason is empty lists are falsy. If you convert empty lists to Booleans, you'll get false, which means not numbers is true. And this is true of any object that could be empty. So for example, an empty string, not name will be true because we're asking, is name falsy? In other words, if we convert name to a Boolean, will we get false? And the answer is yes, we will get false. And that's because name is an empty string. So anything that's empty in Python is falsy. Anything that's non-empty, meaning it has a length greater than 0, is truthy. Although it's not actually just about length, because if you take the object none, none I think of as representing emptiness. It's kind of the ultimate representation of emptiness in Python. So we would expect if we convert none to a Boolean, we would get false. And in fact, we do. None is falsy, so not none is true. So truthiness is about two things. We've seen the first thing here. The first thing is that truthiness is about non-emptiness. The second thing is that truthiness is also about non-zeroness. So when it comes to numbers, we're checking, is the number not 0? Now in this case, n equals 0, so we get no because n in fact is 0. So if you convert 0 to a Boolean, you get false. 0 is falsy. Every other number is truthy. Doesn't matter what the number is, it is truthy. So in Python, truthiness is asking the question, what happens if I convert an object to a Boolean? In general, if that object isn't a number and it doesn't have a length or any kind of notion of emptiness, it's truthy. Every object is truthy by default. But if the object has a length or it somehow represents emptiness, if it's empty, it is falsy. Also, if it's a number, if it's the number 0, it's falsy. So truthiness in Python is about non-emptiness and non-zeroness. And the main place you'll see it used is checking for non-emptiness. Not numbers, for example. If not numbers is checking, is numbers not an empty list or none? That's truthiness in Python.